Now I'm fixing to show you how you can cut metal. And it's really quite simple. A razor knife, it doesn't have to be like this one, which is foldable. It can be any number of types of razor knives. But a razor knife is important to use. Now, I measured what the lap was to where I needed it over, and it was 3 3/4 inch. Now you want to go from that lap. 3 3/4 would be right about on the side of that rib would be better. So just about a 1/4 inch difference, shouldn't make any difference at all. So what I'm gonna do, see if you can see that. Can you guys see that rib right there? So I'm gonna take that knife. If I didn't have the rib and I needed to cut in the middle, I would take a straight edge, mark it with a pencil first, and then take the razor knife. That way you can tell if you're traveling off that line. Sometimes you got to cut an angle. Same thing. In this case, I'm going to cut right beside the rib. You can just do it one time. Really, all you're doing is, this metal wants to break, believe it or not. You're just encouraging it where to break. So sometimes if I'm worried if it's an angle that goes across a rib, I'll cut with snips right here and right here to encourage it to go there. That's where it's going to want to bend and then break. So I'm going to bend this just like that. Now you can do across ribs. It's really difficult. You may end up having to cut with snips, you know, and it may be a lot more difficult. You end up having waste, cut off some with the snips, and then get over the rib. It's depending on the situation. In this case, we're doing it like that. While we're at it, if I needed to cut a pipe, and the pipe fell out right there, and this sheet was like so. I mean, some people would try to cut a line all the way down and try to force that sheet down. You could do that. Ends up being real rough looking right here. Or you could cut across. Say if it's over in the middle of the sheet, you could cut across over to it. It ends up being real rough. You can put metal stuff behind it. You can do that, but it ends up looking rough. If you have a situation and you have a pipe or a cutout in the middle and you want to know, hey, how can I get that a little bit better? It could be over here. It doesn't have to be right here. It could be anywhere up and down. So you draw your pipe. Give me a pair of snips over here, Zach. And you break that metal close to it. So this is fairly close. Not dead on it, but just a little over. And I'll show you why. What you'd end up doing is cut just a little bit, which makes it easier to get in there. You cut your size. You can use hole saws if you don't feel comfortable doing it by hand. But you make sure you leave a little bit of room. And then you can lap this over. And you do the same size cut there. You can lap it over more. You can take another sheet, break it, and lap it over. That allows you to go over it and cover just a little bit tighter and a little bit stronger. Ends up being a better look, I promise you. If you want to, you can stitch it together. But you can cut all different kinds of angles and penetrations. You can have 4 of them and then lap it over with that cut. I can take another half a sheet, lap it over that much, all the way over to this rib. I can cut along this rib, lap over, and then put that piece in. A lot of choices. Now I have that piece of metal that I showed you. I'm going to stick it in here. I have to pull out the J-channel like I was showing you before. That allows me to put a screw in up here underneath that front we're going to put on. That covers that area. I don't have to make a real tight corner either. Next thing I'm going to do is measure from here to get my angle down. There may be a problem if you have a major slope this way or this way and an angle here. How do you deal with that? Well, in that case, you would take a level, get a level mark or level area, measure from your level down, from whatever point it is. Say if this was your high point and that was your low point, you would put your level over here, level down, make a mark over here, measure down from here, and then measure up to this angle and up to this angle. Then you can go back over to your sheet, take your level mark, measure that much down and that much up on both sides. And it's tricky, but you can do it. And being as it's a DVD, you can review what I just said. And with some practice, you'll get it done. If you remember right, there was a bit of a hump there because of this root. You can see how I cut that to do it. What I did was I stuck the metal in there, determined where it was on this metal, and I cut a little bit of a section out. Just guessed it by hand. And we're going to stick this in there and see how good it does. Kind of pushing a little bit, so we're going to cut an angle right here. And by the way, when we go off camera, there's not a team underneath the tent doing all the work for me. This is stuff that I do every day. I have a pair of snips. That's because this area right here went uphill. We determined that it needed to be 21 1/4 over with that lap to the post right there. So I'm going to take this scrap piece of metal, take this resin knife, and cut right there. Right on that rib. And we're going to cut this metal